listeners, welcome to the ECM podcast. I'm Caroline Fontanieu, and I'm very happy to host this series that will take you behind the scenes of new music on ECM Records. In this new episode, I met with bass legend Steve Swallow to celebrate his new sextet album on ECM, Winter Songs, produced by Manfred. We talked about grief, gratitude, time, and so much more. We're here to talk about Winter Songs. Congratulations on this new album.
Thank you. I'm happy to have it released.
Yeah, it's the first one in a long time as a leader. I think the last one was Into the Woodwork in 2013 on ECM as a leader. And also it's been 6 years since Swallowtails and Life Goes On. I say congratulations, but is it the appropriate cheer for a new album? Is it congratulations? Is it something to congratulate?
Well, we'll have to see. I'm very happy with it and pleased that it's being made available to everybody.
Yeah, we're really happy, and I think everyone is very, very much looking forward to hearing it. Winter Songs, though, this title, it suggests a seasonality and an atmosphere. And I was wondering, what did that mean to you when you chose that title?
What seems a very simple, straightforward question is in fact difficult for me to answer, but I'll try. The album was written over the course of a winter, so that basically the title derives from that fact. I began it in mid-October of 2023 and finished it in about April of the next year. And for me, that's extremely fast. That's more quickly than I've ever written an album before.
Wow.
Yeah, I take my time, or rather, time takes me. I should really put it that way. I'm extremely slow, and the writing process for me is extremely deliberate as well. It sometimes takes me a long time to be certain of the next note. And I've always spent a matter of years, I think I could say, accumulating, if that's the word, the material for an album of music. But Winter Songs was written in the course of a season, in the course of a winter, and it sprung out of a necessity that I hadn't felt before. I really needed music. I needed music to
Cope?
yeah, to keep my head above water. And there it was. Music is a remarkably elemental and powerful force. And it's there when you need it. That's something a lesson that I've learned that's tremendously valuable to me.
Mm.
And it's my hope that this recording conveys that. It took me a winter to write it, and it was a winter that was more fraught with difficulty than any winter I'd had before. But out of that time came this thing that speaks in the language of music to my ears, speaks of some very powerful and elemental forces that exist not inside of me, but in the air, in the very air we breathe. It's just remarkable to me the power that music possesses, and it's a lesson that I'm still digesting as I continue my life as a music writer and as a bass player as well. It's remarkable to me that something that's essentially abstract and inessential is so powerful. By abstract, I mean music is notes in the air. It's a system of relationships. It's mathematics of the highest sort, I think. And that these relationships have such power is remarkable to me. That something essentially abstract can act on a person, in this case me, with such strength.
Would you say that it's something that was some kind of a shift? You're saying that you gave music whatever you could throughout your life, and in this instance, music gave you what you needed. Is it something that is it now, or during this winter of 2023, you had this moment and then you're back to giving to the music before she
Ah,
gives back to you? Was it a shift or was it a moment?
that's a lovely question. I think that my perspective has changed and it'll remain changed. But I don't think music has changed at all.
You changed it. You
uh,
did.
well, everybody
Exactly.
who sings a note changes
Exactly. You
the
did.
face of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. And I do think that my relationship to my music has changed in a way that will stay. I mean, when I wake up in the morning and go to the piano to explore music, as I've done since I was a child, there's something different in the process for me now. But that's just as simple as saying I've learned something, and one hopes to learn something every day, and especially to acquire knowledge over time. The idea that perseverance is rewarded is deeply rooted in the experience of doing music. I mean, it's the rationalization for practicing. You practice faithfully and doggedly day after day after day in the belief somewhere in there that the perseverance in that process is it will be rewarded. You'll play better as a
Mhm.
result of it, having done that, and that's something that hasn't changed. I'm I guess more aware of it than I have been in the past, but then again, that's not surprising. The process of discovery that's ongoing in music and that every musician is engaged in is, I think, does accumulate and then amount to something.
Mm.
Uh,
Do you think now you're composing for surprise, or you're searching for surprise, or you're searching for clarity?
uh, of the two, and I think the answer is both. But of the two, clarity is more important to me now.
Mm.
I do want to make a statement that provokes recognition in the listener rather than confusion. I hope that my music, when it's stripped of its fanciness, of its decoration, of all of that, sends a clear message. I would hasten not to define that message because
Yeah.
it's a message that exists in music, in the language of music, and not I can't say it with my mouth. I would hope that my progress in music has been toward greater clarity.
Yeah,
The surprises are part of the reward system, what keeps you going, what keeps you applying yourself to music, those wonderful moments when something locks into place, or when something a revelation happens in the middle of a phrase, and that it can be as specific as that. You can all of a sudden move to a G natural instead of a G sharp, and it's like you're on the road to Damascus. All of a sudden, and your music is forever, informed by the wisdom that moment gives you. I would hate to work toward clarity with such relentless zeal that I cease to experience those moments of wonderful and abstract awareness where something new arrives. That's a particular brain function, I think, allowing something new to enter your consciousness. For the most part, you're working with the blocks that you already own, what you
absolutely.
know, and you're arranging them in constantly changing and morphing relationships. But when all of a sudden there's a new block, it's the most miraculous and wonderful event.
It requires a certain flexibility that maybe comes with time, or maybe comes with practice, or maybe comes with luck. I don't know. There's something about what you're saying, like this sensation with this album of also coming back to something essential, so coming back to the core of it in a way. And yet it was written for a sextet. So did you write this music with this band in mind?
Uh, the band kind of emerged as I was
Mm,
writing. The very first days in which I was engaged in writing the music, I was just throwing notes onto the page. And over a period of weeks, I would say, I began to imagine particular voices playing these notes, and that's the way I've always
mm,
worked. And the band took some unusual shifts, as I wrote the music and began to hear it clearly. For the most part, I was assembling a collection of old and dear friends, players I'd worked with in the past, but not entirely. Again, it's somewhat the process is somewhat mysterious to me. And you mentioned luck just a moment ago, and I think that's an immense factor in any project, in building a building or writing a poem or painting a painting. It's
or staying alive, really.
yes, indeed. And I think what we're talking about is chance, the stuff happening that defies the mathematics of
Yeah.
what we're doing. That exists in life in every aspect, from our very genetic structure all the way to the universe in which we live. I'm presuming to say that, and if ever there was something pompous to have been said, that's it. Because that's what I've been. That's where my reading has taken me recently, is to examine genetics as an amateur, as an amateur musician, and to see that there are startling parallels between what we're made of and the music that we make. I think that's inescapable, and that's just kind of stating the obvious. What else are you going to sing about? Um,
Yeah, but it's fascinating and it's endless and it's also the less deep thing because it works for everyone and everything around us, but at the same
That's
time
right.
that's the deepest
It's
thing.
it's all of us. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. And the play of chance events within the formation of the double helix that we that contains our genetic makeup is undeniable. And that resonated so deeply with me because I've made so many mistakes in the course of my musical history, especially as a player.
As an improviser too.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I'll reach for a G and play a G sharp instead. Oops. And then it's what happens next is crucial. How do I resolve the G sharp so that it sounds like, no, that wasn't a mistake. Uh, and there is always a way to
Yeah.
affect that resolution. And the same is true in the composing process, except that it's happening over a longer period of time, and you have several days if you need it to figure out how to resolve the G sharp that you hit.
You were talking about going on the piano in the morning. Do you compose on bass or do you compose on piano or you just write on paper?
I do write on paper. I don't use a software,
Yeah.
any software.
Mhm.
I'm doggedly devoted to pencil and paper. I do write often sitting usually, in fact, sitting at the piano, but for the most part, that's what I'm doing is just sitting there. I'm not actually playing the piano. I discovered a long time ago that if I just kind of noodled at the piano and waited for an idea to emerge, the ideas that emerged were the same old shit I've been playing for decades. So I've learned to only put my hands on the piano keyboard when I needed to verify an idea or to refine an idea, or to work seriously on ideas. I've never composed at the bass. I'm not sure why not. I'm not at all interested in writing solo literature for the electric bass because I just don't see the instrument in that context. I am a blue collar bass player. I'm looking for the right note to make the band sound good at any given time, and that's a place in the music I've cherished since I was a teenager, since I discovered the bass when I was 13 or 14 years old. The idea of being a member of a community making a musical statement
Yeah,
was
you're a teammate.
yeah, right. That resonated immediately with me. I thought,
Mm.
aha,
That's
that's a good thing to do. And if it's going well, and indeed you're making those note choices at just the right time, in just the right place in the music, it's deeply satisfying. At any rate, that's all to show that my life as a player is kind of distinct from my life as a writer, and
Mm.
my writing doesn't involve the bass. And in fact, my writing has had a kind of a strong influence on my bass playing in that it's caused me to simplify my bass playing a lot. Because I found that as a writer, when I was wearing my composer hat, I really wanted the bass player to play a foundational role. I felt I always needed that
Mm.
in the music, and so when I put on my bass player hat, I brought that lesson with me, and looked always for the simplest and most efficient way to provide what the music needed at a given time. The process of making this album, I was as the bass player was as actively discovering and exploring this music that I'd written,
Mm.
as were the other members of the band. And I felt very strongly that we were engaged in this process together,
Mm.
that that I wasn't uh, dictating the terms on which we discovered what the music held, what the possibilities in the music were. In fact, I was enjoying immensely discovering what the players were discovering in the music. I mean, it's essentially the piano and the guitar, Gil Goldstein and Steve Cardenas were orchestrating the music, and you know, this again is a gross simplification. And the horns, Mike Rodriguez and Chris Cheek were essentially declaiming the music, saying the music. Uh, and I hired is too crass a word. I invited Gil Goldstein into the band because of his prowess as an orchestrator.
You're right.
I really didn't care so much that he was also a very gifted piano player and could play fast and could play low and could play high. And
Its approach of the orchestration was drawn you to him for this.
I really wanted that from him, and I was pleased to see that was indeed the way he worked himself into the music. And I had worked with Steve Cardenas a few times in the past,
Yeah.
and he was on the album from 2014, whenever that was.
2013, yeah, Into the Woodworks, yeah.
2013, as was Chris Cheek,
Right.
the saxophone player. So I kind of knew how they would work their way into the music. But this process occurred very quickly, and that was also partly out of necessity, but also out of design as well. I wanted that. I wanted the players to approach the music with the sense that the clock was ticking, that
Mm.
there wasn't so much time. We had essentially one rehearsal, and then the very next day went into the recording
Wow.
studio
Yeah.
and recorded for 2 days. And I saw that as a good thing.
Do you think there's a different approach to time when aging? The relationship with time is different. Are things more urgent? Are things more have to happen now as we age? Or is it just something that just gets longer and more flexible?
Again, I would have to say both things are true. Of course, I feel a wind on the back of my neck. I know that I'd better hurry up. If I have more to say, I'd better say it quickly because I might die soon. On the other hand, I find myself letting go. I find myself staring out the window, and time suspends, and I'm watching the breeze outside. I was really placing tremendous demands on music when I wrote this album. I was demanding of music that it sustain me
Right.
and that it maintain my equilibrium, that it keep sustain me upright. And I'm still amazed, and I'm really grateful more than anything else that that music seemed to kind of roll up its sleeves and say, "No problem, that's my job. I'll do that." And the process of writing and recording this album was at the end a really joyful experience. By the time the recording happened, and I was essentially out in the world with other people for the first time since mid-October. It was fun. I loved the company of the other guys, the guys in the band, and I loved the process of discovering the music and deciding which notes worked and which notes didn't. All of the nuts and bolts aspects of producing 45 minutes of music. It was just lovely. I loved it when we stopped in the middle of the day and ate sandwiches together at a big round table. The world was alive for me
Yeah.
in a way that I really thrilled to, that I found thrilling, that sustained me. And again, I felt that that was just the music working. And once again, I'm just astonished that I was able to take music so much for granted for so many decades of my life, and how the music didn't care at all, and was just waiting to be of service to me
Exactly. But when you needed it,
when I
it was
needed it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of us can count on. That's the discovery I brought back from this process, is that music can be counted on, that it is a force that does that and can do that for anyone.
I wish we had the 7 hours, but I just wanted to ask you a quick question about your relationship with ECM and Manfred here, because this relationship is so special.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Can you tell me a few words about your relationship with the label and with Manfred here?
Yeah, my relationship with Manfred and with ECM, my relationship with Manfred goes back to the days before there was an ECM, and it's endured that long. He wrote to me in I guess 1969 or 1970, expressing fondness for my music and interest in recording it. He said he intended to form a record company and wanted me to be a part of it. And nobody had done that. I had been whacking away at making a living at music for more than a decade, and had hopes to make a statement. I wanted to make an album, and the difficulty in achieving that was monumental. There was nothing but the big record companies, Atlantic and Columbia and the like, and they were really a giant monster, full of corporate monsters
Yeah.
who were eating the music up and spitting it out, and I was having a lot of trouble with that issue, and in fact it led me to leave New York City and move to a small town in California to escape from the music business. I really
Mm.
felt it was a monstrous organism. And here comes this letter from a young German guy, a young German bass player, saying that he wanted to record me, and implicit in all of that is that he had some sense of the value in the music I was making. I wrote back, and we began this relationship that has continued to this day, and it's a bond of trust. He's a deeply honest man, and I don't take that lightly. And beyond that, I enjoy his company. There's no pain in our relationship after all of these decades. And coincidentally too, but it's a fortunate coincidence. His taste as the record company expanded to include a lot of classical music and musics of various sorts, not only coincided with mine, but influenced mine. The choices that Manfred made in his roster have influenced me over time. Over time, the way in which he defined the community of improvisers by making choices, by saying I'll record this, but I won't record that, has had its impact on me, and I think it's worthy of my consideration because it's not based on an anticipation of what's going to sell and what's not going to sell. It's
Yeah.
really based on an aesthetic. I mean, he really, went to Scandinavia and discovered all of these guys who
Yeah.
played remarkably well and in a very singular way, and said, "I like that," and chose to record it, and similarly found an underrepresented school of so-called classical music composers, and heard their music and said, "I like that." He's been very simple in that regard. He has a visceral response to music and acts
But that's
upon.
the honesty you're talking about. And there's also something very special in your relationship that it's rare that there's a place and a pair of ears and a heart somewhere on this planet that just is also here since basically the beginning. There's ECM is also a document of your life, of all the facial hair styles of your life, and album covers, and your fantastic marriage, and your friendships, and it's all there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very true. That for better or worse, ECM contains a series of photographs, facial hair and all, over the years, and if you flip through them like one would flip quickly through a book to see somebody jumping
Yeah,
over a fence, you'd get a sense of what I've been up to for my
yeah,
entire time, and I owe that to Manfred.
yeah.
I'm grateful that he chose to make this document.
Swallow about his new album, Winter Songs. Thank you for joining, choosing, and listening to our ECM podcast. This episode was mixed and edited by Lucas Desmottes. I'm Caroline Fontagneux, and I look forward to sharing more music with you in the next episode.